Welcome back to the Sober Fit Girl podcast. I am so excited. We're here at Drinks with Benefits with our third interviewee. We got Maria here, and we're talking all things sex.
Yeah.
We're so excited. So why don't you just tell us a little about yourself, your brand, and everything?
So where should I start?
Yeah.
I've been on the spiritual path for most of my life and just working through movement, my body, and it's been kind of like a long journey. So I was a dancer, then I studied yoga, and then that kind of led me into having a very difficult birth at 42 with my daughter, a very traumatic birth, and that kind of opened my eyes into like a different perspective, and I realized that I was living with a pelvic floor dysfunction for the last decade. That was a little bit of a shock because I lived from my body and I was so in touch with my body, or so I thought. But I was having all these issues, painful with intimacy, leaking, lower back pain, and led me to that really, really hard birth. So I decided to just focus my attention into knowing everything I could and diving into pelvic floor wellness and kind of using all the tools that I already had to heal myself and focus on women's wellness. So that's kind of like a little bit of, where I am today, where I'm just focusing on embodiment, movement, on healing the pelvic floor through somatic movement, through a holistic approach that encompasses like mind, body, and soul connections, so not just like physical exercises, and really like empowering women into all these taboo topics, because I also realized that so many women, we all have lived in like our bodies for so long with a lot of shame, with not a lot of knowledge about our own bodies and empowerment. So there's so many taboo topics that we're still like scared of talking about. So I want to bring those to life and really radicalize like women's wellness.
Well, thank you, because in the Sober Fit Girl, intimacy is one of our number one. We have community calls every week. It's one of our number one that people always attend, because they really, really struggle. I mean, even me personally struggled with intimacy in my sobriety. So just so brave for talking about it. It needs to be talked about. So I do have a question just before we get into sober sex and things like that. What is your current relationship with alcohol?
I'm sober curious.
Okay, amazing. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, I've gone through, the last few years have been a lot of grief in my life. I lost a couple of people in my life. It was very, very, very deep grieving moment. And I also had 5 miscarriages back to back.
So sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Also really important to talk about. So I just went through a really rough time, and I started using alcohol daily, and I realized that I was, been really using alcohol and other drugs for the whole of my life to be able to just be in life. Even though I've been, in the path of yoga and spirituality, I still, felt that alcohol was always there to have fun, to have sex, to be able to socialize, to celebrate, to literally like everything. It was sad. And then in that moment when I was feeling very like I didn't have the tools to cope, I went really deep into more like drinking daily until it got to a point when I was like, okay, step back. I need to like reassess where I am and what I'm doing, and this is not what I want to be. And so I started kind of just experimenting with being sober, and it's been a journey. I'm still in that journey, and it's hard.
I'm sorry. I know that it's a lot when you're dealing with grief, and then the pain from miscarriages. It can really, really be a lot. And from my own relationship with alcohol and all of the women in the community, like using alcohol to cope becomes a really, really big way of dealing with emotions, and well, not really dealing with them, but just pushing them down and saving them for later and choosing not to. And, I know that now with your brand and the healing, the holistic healing that you do, it's so important for us to be in tune with our bodies. And I know that for me, when I was drinking, I definitely was not in tune with my body physically, mentally, spiritually, nothing. Like, I was so out of my body all the time. And so I love that you are sober curious and you are really focusing on what life can be like without alcohol and realizing how the relationship might have been toxic with alcohol, because just like we have toxic relationships with men, we can have toxic relationships with alcohol too. So I think that's important to remember. And how have you noticed being sober curious has helped you in your practice, in your own health, in your own journey with?
I love it, honestly. I think I got to a point where, like that things aren't serving you anymore. And you're in a place where you're like, I'm uncomfortable but I don't know how to like get out of it. But you realize that you have to move in a different way. And being sober has been super challenging because I realized I don't know how to socialize without a drink, because I'm actually I'm an introvert.
Oh, me too.
So I definitely use that as a tool, right? So, and then even like in intimacy, it's like, really hard to surrender and give yourself to someone but then I also realized, oh wow, like I was also using sex without any mindfulness and giving myself to other people and my energy, my sacred portal of energy and my journey to other people without even, realizing it when you are drinking. So being sober is just so beautiful to be conscious and present at any moment and feeling yourself, and also just like being able to like wake up with no hangover and wake up. And I think as I'm getting older as well, I feel like when I was in my 20s, I was like, I could drink and party all night and then I could, get up and go do a workout. But I'm 45 now and I can't do that anymore. I really feel it. And I love being like clear-headed, like don't procrastinate. I have more energy. I'm more present with my kids. I'm more present with my partner. I feel things so much harder. I cry a lot. I used to not cry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm working on more crying, but I've held in a lot of emotions for a long time, so it's nice to sometimes...
She cried in Bali once, and I was like, yes! Woo!
Yeah.
We went to this Balinese healer, and I was like, God, I really hope this works. You gotta crack that bitch open.
Yeah, it was a little
Did it
hard,
work?
but
Did it work?
It did. It was a little later on in the day, but we still
And I'm
got
over there
some-
like, I love crying, to be honest.
Yeah, but like I feel like I never cried before.
Yeah, I get that.
And only till like now when I'm like sober, I'm like, everything, I'm just so vulnerable and so beautiful, but it's uncomfortable. And it's uncomfortable for people because people are not used to like,
Yeah. So at Sober Fit Girl, the clients and listeners, even myself, Eva as well, our relationship with sex. Well, I'm just going to speak. I always speak from my experience. From my experience with sex and my drinking was reaching for something outside of myself, a human being, to feel validated. And I know that a lot of females in Sober Fit Girl can relate to that. And their relationship with sex is so scary. And so was mine. Like, I was very sexual in my drinking days, but then when I stopped drinking, I was almost scared to have sex.
Yeah,
so is there
same.
anything that you can kind of help them with in that?
Yeah. I think the most important thing about sex and being able to, in intimacy, is slowing down.
Yeah.
Slowing down. And really, it's all about the breath and coming back to your breath and feeling yourself. And I think because we've learned all about sex, we've learned about in like porn and magazines and movies and all these things that are not realistic relationships, and like you're always wet and like you see in the movies, a woman is always ready and it happens really fast, and like real sex is not like that. Like intimacy,
I take forever.
Yeah, it's slow and it's about trust and feeling safe, and like bringing it back to your breath and bringing it back to that like safety and intimacy and trust between a couple, and then you can let go, and relax. So I think it's not rushing, it's coming back to your breath, and also it's about like trusting who you're with, right? And maybe creating rituals that you can do together that take you there. So
do you feel that when you consume alcohol, I don't even know this answer, like scientifically, does it hinder your chance of an orgasm?
I don't know if that's, I think so, probably. Yeah. I mean, I definitely feel like I was less orgasmic when I was drinking, but also because I was very performative too.
Yeah.
You
I get
know,
that.
it was a lot about performative sex, and it was all about like giving, and like giving pleasure to men and not really honoring my own pleasure and honoring my boundaries and honoring myself, because you're intoxicated and you want again,
Someone
you
to
want
validate it.
validation,
Mhm.
you know, and you want to be cool, and you want to be loved, right? So then you give yourself without really being ready.
We actually just in a previous interview were talking about this with DJ Mona, and she said how the orgasms that she would feel in sobriety were a lot different than the orgasms she would feel when she was drinking. And I think that goes back to exactly what you were saying, is like a lot of the sex that we were having, at least I can relate from my own perspective during my drinking days, I wasn't into it. Like mentally I was somewhere else because I was used to escaping with alcohol. So for me, like, it was hard to be present and in the moment and connected to my body, which made me not able to orgasm. To be honest, I faked every single orgasm.
Same.
Up until this
Sure.
relationship that I'm in now, where I do feel safe, which is something else that you talked about, because I didn't feel safe, and I was always escaping, and I was so used to escaping my own body through alcohol that I didn't feel connected to it. And now being able to see the contrast of like feeling everything, and like you said, slowing down, like allowing yourself to like be in the moment is so important, because that's exactly it. I was never in the moment when I was having sex. And like alcohol also took that away, because like I said, I was always mentally not present, and a lot of insecurity came from it too, because I was really insecure when I was drinking. I had no confidence. Validation depended from other people. It was never internal. Like I never felt validated by myself. So just all of these different factors, you could see how like you don't feel that connection to your body when you're drinking, and it's a lot with your mind too. And
Well, you're numb,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Your senses are also numb.
exactly.
So you're not feeling as much.
Yeah.
And it's harder to feel.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I even used sex to escape. I mean, that was the first thing I actually used as a child to escape. I started orgasming at masturbating at a very young age. I had a very traumatic childhood, and that was my first, even before alcohol, which then in turn, because of my father, like, trauma, it turned into I would use sex to escape. So can you imagine when you stop drinking, alcohol was the gateway to sex, to another escape. You, like, wipe clean. I mean, I was celibate I did 2 years, and then I did a year and a half. I mean, like, so much power came back to me. But did you also have that same where you would use sex to escape?
I think I use sex to escape and for like validation.
Yeah.
I think I have also sexual trauma.
Same, yeah.
So
We
I
all-
was abused
yeah.
when I was in my teens.
So sorry.
And I think I used, my looks and my beauty privilege to be loved, to feel loved. All I wanted was to be loved, and I think that I use sex to feel loved and feel validated and feel worth. And it wasn't so much about escaping, but it was about like power. I thought that would give me power, right? And I could have any man that I can't, and I would be like, let's
almost
go.
get like a high off of
right?
it.
Yeah. But then, after years and years of that, and then like, you wake up the next day and the guy never calls you, and then they ghost you, and then you're like, feel like worse than you felt before, right? So you didn't really have any of that worth and validation. You actually feel so much worse, because none of these guys are calling you back. There's nothing really real there. It was so, so then you feel like awful, and then years and years of that, and then it's really like, you realize like that wasn't power,
And it's
that
not
was
really
not
intimacy.
power.
Yeah.
That was
It's
the
not
opposite
power.
of power.
Yeah.
I
It's
was,
taking away your power.
yeah.
And I actually, Eva and I both have done over a year celibate, and Sober Fit Girl actually wouldn't even exist unless I did celibacy, because I used guys so much that it sucked the life out of me, that when I went, I took all of that and like made something. Have you ever gone a long time without having sex? Because a lot of our clients are always, a lot of our clients though are, they're like, should I do this? Mine wasn't.
I think it's great. I think it's a great thing to do. Because your sexual energy is so powerful. It's also your creative source. It's like it's a really life force that we have. So I think being celibate is really coming back to yourself also and your power, so you're able to really like engage with someone, I think, in a conscious way. I think it's a really amazing practice to do.
I think you
but
can
honestly,
heal,
I haven't.
Yeah, I think you can heal your sexual trauma through not having sex and like bringing it back to yourself, because sometimes I think that I would try to heal that trauma through having sex
Yeah.
with the wrong person, but you are in a really healthy relationship, so it's a little different.
I was going to say, I think my sexual trauma and a lot of my parent traumas are being healed by my relationship.
Amazing.
You know,
beautiful.
because I have an incredible, sensitive, vulnerable man that really holds space for me, and for, we grow, and it's a very expansive relationship. So I think that's healing trauma for myself.
I can relate to that too. I'm so sorry that you went through that. I know that, that can make us feel even more of wanting to escape. I had experiences, one main one when I was like 15, 16 years old, that also like really, I was completely sober for that, and it really, really left me feeling embarrassed and a lot of shame behind sex, which also was why I was drinking and seeking that validation through sex. And I felt like I couldn't have sex unless I was drinking. It went hand in hand for me. And also, like, it became like a chore for me. I felt like I was just doing it to please the other person because, through that experience, like, this person just came in, they took advantage, and then they left. And it was just like, so painful to deal with, especially when you're a younger girl and these experiences are shaping our future. And so, hearing how the relationship you're in is what is healing you is also something that I noticed for me. I'm, in my first healthy relationship ever, and I am able to get to that point with him and open up for the first time. And that is exactly what I was able to achieve through, like Kat was saying, I had over a year of celibacy that led to that. I was able to take back my energy, take back my power, and also, yes, I got sober 3.5 years ago, but like I was still choosing those toxic men. I was still getting myself stuck in those cycles with the same type of guy, chasing that same type of feeling and validation. And when I did take, that year to take my power back and really look at what I was doing and understand a little bit more of my patterns and process what happened, because when we drink, we're just not processing that. I actually wasn't able to process that until I got sober. I was just kind of trying to numb with alcohol. And so I realized that, taking that year to just not think about men, taking that year to just really focus on me and my happiness and feel that confidence again really, really allowed me to welcome in that type of relationship. Whereas if it was even a year ago before that, I don't think I would be in this relationship. I wouldn't allow myself to get into this relationship because I would be like, too good to be true, not my type, stay away. Like, it really is healing to be with somebody that proves to you that it is safe. It's a safe space, and, not needing to escape, because I know that like alcohol is such a big way to escape when you're having sex, and it's just been such a common theme in my life. So, thank you for sharing that experience. I know that there's so many women in our community too who have been through sexual trauma, are recovering from it, and it's just so amazing to hear that there's hope. You can be in a healthy relationship, you can have a healthy sex life, and I think sometimes people forget that,
Of course, we deserve everything and we can have everything.
Exactly.
Do you have any, I don't want to say tips. Yeah, tips on what you could give someone, that might be listening to reintroduce sex sober if they are single and going out and dating and trying to figure that out? Loaded question. It could even be like how to help them orgasm, that like anything that you want to share that's for the single ladies.
Yeah, I think like the most important thing is to first figure out what you like and how you like to be touched, and self-pleasure is one of the most incredible tools that you can have to know yourself and to get in touch with your sensuality and your own pleasure, and also like not having to rely on someone else for our own pleasure, because that's also coming back to what you're saying. like we were never taught that we were allowed to have pleasure for ourselves. You know, we were always kind of learned that we are here to give pleasure, and you know that we have to, you know, here to serve men,
Yeah.
and you know that we can't be alone, and like being alone is great, you know. So I think that reaffirming that we are able to have, that we don't need men, right? Or women, you know, whatever, in whatever relationship we are, that we don't need another one to have our own pleasure, and then really getting to know yourself and your body. So then you can go into a space where you can share that. And I think the only way to do that once you share it is just really being really honest and taking it really slow, you know. And I think a lot of men are gonna like, you know, maybe like go running the other direction, but then you're gonna find the one that's really gonna, you know, be that person that can hold you and your power, and you know, and kind of go slow with you on this road. And then if you're not comfortable, and just take him through the steps, you know, kind of like, let's do this ritual together, you know, and guide them, because men, you know, they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, they sure don't.
Right?
Most of them.
So we have to tell them what to do, and we have to be like, okay, honey, let's do this, you know, this ritual, and sit with me, and let's breathe together, and you know, look into our eyes, and you know, like slow down, and not like jump into like penetration, you know, or anything like that, but really kind of like explore a different type of intimacy that is way deeper, because sex is way more than, you know, penetration and what we think it is, right? So like, kind of like, I think if I was going to do it all over again, I would do it like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like with the girls too that are listening, the thing that we have in dating is the red flags, and really trying to see and understand them. Do you know what I mean? Do you have anything for the single ladies that are dating that you could say are red flags to be careful of going into a sexual experience with someone?
I mean, dating sucks.
Girl, I'm single as shit over here. Fucking Lord help me.
I'm sorry for you.
Things are not doing well.
Honestly, I have been out of the dating game for a really long time.
God, don't come back. Bless you too for giving me hope.
And when I was dating, you know, it was different. You know, I'm older, so I don't know. I think that red flags.
Well, I mean, you could say some that from your experiences prior. Were there any like red flags that you noticed in your own experience that you now could share with someone? If that makes sense.
For me, like a red flag is a man that can't be vulnerable. You know, that's like a huge red flag. Someone that is trying to pressure you into something. You know, what else could be a red flag?
If they're all about themselves and the
Yes.
Yeah, that's a big.
That's true.
that's a red flag.
And
That's a
also
huge
don't
red flag.
pause and say like, hey, and you know, sometimes I feel like men sometimes, exactly like you said, don't know what the fuck they're doing. But if you're like having sex and they're not even interested in asking
Yes,
if you're pleasured, like I've been through that. I'm like, hello, are you there? Like, do you care about me? Yeah,
The
I'm just, like,
pounding
getting
is a red flag.
Smashed from behind. I'm like, this is not. Can you tell? I'm not moving around.
Yeah, I think if they're trying to, you know, put it inside of you right away, that's definitely a red flag. You know?
Okay.
It's like, girl, we need some.
Oh yeah.
It says supposedly we need 45 minutes to actually of foreplay to be ready to give ourselves.
I that's me. I mean, I honestly take absolutely forever. I mean, it's probably again from trauma of the past and feeling safe. I do have a question. So, there are multiple types of orgasms, correct?
Yes.
So, can women orgasm only through penetration, or is there some women that need to have outside penetration?
Well, actually, most women cannot orgasm for penetration.
That's me.
Yeah, that's me too.
Yeah.
Because our clitoris is mostly outside. Well, not mostly. Most of it is inside. But most women need clitoral stimulation to actually orgasm, so most women have a very hard time orgasming with just penetration. So, but for example, our breasts are super erogenous, and we are able to have breast orgasms.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
No, I wondered that. I like my breast being
What does
played
that
with. Maybe
feel
that's
like?
not what.
Yeah, and full body orgasm. So,
I gotta
and
look that up.
cervical orgasms.
We need a class. We need a workshop at Sober Fit, or we're all just like touching our boobs, trying to figure. I would happily do that. Give me all the tools, girl.
Exactly. So yeah, I think it's being able to be safe with someone so you can explore all of these fun things, because the world of sex is just so much bigger than we think and that we've learned. And most women don't even know that there's all different types of orgasms, and men, well, they're even clueless, right? So I think it's good to have, when you are in a relationship, you can explore all these beautiful things together. And I like with my partner, we watch tutorials and we were like, oh, why don't we try this today? And like
Love
this
that.
new technique, and like that could be like a fun thing to do together, and like watch a video and like, kind of like explore something different, and and have goals of like, cervical orgasms, full body breast orgasms, whatever it is. So it's it's fun.
As long as you got a man that's willing to learn, I feel like you can do a lot with that,
Yes, but that's what we all deserve.
Exactly.
Well, we are so grateful that you came on here, and we're so happy that you're out there sharing this vulnerable stuff because we need it. So where can the Sober Fit Girls find you?
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yes.
You guys are amazing. So so I'm holistic with an X on Instagram. I have my Orgasmic Women program, which is for women that struggle with pelvic floor dysfunction, tightness in the pelvic floor, pain with intimacy, disconnection with their bodies, all of that. So that's an amazing program. I also do retreats in Colombia for women. So you can find me on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube.
Amazing. Well, thanks for
Thank
coming.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.